to No Holding Back with me, Susan Estridge, the podcast where I bring you the biggest names from the worlds of media, politics, and law. We dive into unfiltered, unapologetic, and insightful conversations. I speak my mind and I encourage my guests to do the same. No topic is off limits as we dive into the issues that shape our world. Today, in a very timely fashion, we have the privilege of speaking with a truly inspiring leader in the fight for a more informed and engaged electorate. Nick Knudsen is the Executive Director of DemCast's USA. If you haven't heard of it, he's got 1 million followers online, major presence in social media, wonderful columns in the Huffington Post, and an incredible background rooted in grassroots activism and digital strategy. Before leading DemCast, Nick was an influential digital organizer and activist who helped build large-scale online campaigns that aimed to mobilize voters, promote democracy, and spread, get this, truthful information across social media platforms. He's worked tirelessly to create digital infrastructures that give regular citizens the tools they need to become active participants in the political process. Under his leadership, DemCast has become a critical leader in the fight for voting rights, election integrity, and combating political polarization. I'm so excited to talk to Nick about DemCast and, of course, his thoughts on this incredible race for the White House. Nick, thanks again for coming on, and thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you, Susan, and thank you for that really wonderful introduction.
Tell me exactly what DemCast does.
Yeah, so DemCast is a 501c4 nonprofit organization. We founded in 2019 because at the time my co-founder and I, Laurie Coleman, saw a huge gap in digital infrastructure on the left. Starting way back in 2015, Donald Trump was raising what he called a digital army to spout his talking points and spread his disinformation. Right. Yep, disinformation. And he really was empowering just everyday people with social media accounts to do this and to be those online trolls and posters, across all social platforms. And we didn't really have anything like that on our side. And so we founded DemCast to empower just regular folks with social media accounts to do the opposite, to spread truth, to fight that disinformation, and to just be as loud as possible with 24/7, 365 drumbeat messaging campaigns.
And so what are you doing in this insane election in which we've got one man running who, if you'll pardon me, is a one-man misinformation campaign? How do you combat that?
It's tough. Their side has it a lot easier because they don't care about truth. They just care about power. So their job is simple: just make as much noise as possible, get people riled up, make them angry, create an enemy, and just be a fire hose of lies and disinformation. I imagine that must be very entertaining for the mastermind behind that to see what that looks like. But it's not entertaining for the rest of us. It's scary and it's democracy shattering. And so, a couple of different things that you can do online to combat that disinformation. One is to just spread the truth. Just be, that if we aren't loud about our stuff, their volume will just take over the internet. So if they're going to be super loud, we have to be super loud too. So that means spreading truth, sharing information about, for instance, the accomplishments of the Biden-Harris presidency, Kamala Harris's qualifications for the presidency, information about Tim Walz and his folksiness, just sort of, all of the stuff to combat the just absolute lies that are coming out on their side. And the other thing that we can do is be proactive and go in, and if there's a viral post on a social media platform from their side, go in and reply in the comments to those posts with with factual information and with links to videos that disprove the lies that they're spouting. So it's a very hands-on, approach that really does take an army of people to sort of monitor what's happening on social media and jump in and combat it, across all platforms.
Let me give you an example of something that really troubled me, and I'm sure it troubled you, and that was what social media is doing about immigrants, and in particular, the immigrants eating cats and dogs. I mean, that managed to become a national story out of, as best I can tell, nothing. How does that happen, and how do you combat it?
This is the problem of our age. So some random lady hears a rumor from a neighbor, and does an innocent Facebook post, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later or whatever, the former president of the United States is talking about immigrants eating cats and dogs on the national debate stage.
What happened between that
It,
post, that innocent lady you say that does a post about something she hears, and in 2 weeks it's presidential fodder for presidential debate? What happened in between that got
yeah,
it there?
which she, by the way, has gone back and apologized profusely for
Yeah, well,
having posted that. But that's the thing, and that's why it's important to be careful with what we say online, because do we know exactly how that spread? No. But
but
somebody
you're an
with some
expert in this.
influence.
You know how lies spread.
Yeah,
I mean, how does it
yeah.
work
So
so well?
somebody with influence, got a hold of that post and post and shared it, and then their followers shared it, and I mean, that's how viral content happens, and the seeds, the seeds had been sown for that disinformation to spread like wildfire, because Donald Trump just nonstop is attacking immigrants in this country, with his stochastic terrorism, and rhetoric, and so there's a whole batch of people out there who are just ready to believe anything that they see,
Right.
just whether it's hearsay or just some random lady posting on her Facebook page.
So what did you do
And
about that? Did DemCast get involved? What did you do when you saw that spreading?
we didn't get involved until after the debate on that one. We didn't. These things happen really fast, and there's a zillion things that are happening on the internet at any given time. But after the debate, we just did our best to, to share the truth about that the immigrant community in Ohio. The fact that these are legal immigrants. They're not illegals like the right likes to say. That there was no truth to any of that. We shared information from public officials at the local level who were discounting what the president had said on the debate stage. So and just generally try and make him look crazy, which he is.
Yeah,
and
that's
and
the scary
yeah,
part is that he is crazy and he gets away with it. And how do you stop
yeah,
that? I mean, his
it's
work's
hard.
pretty
Yeah.
clear. Should Kamala
Oh
be
yeah,
more
we're
attacked?
yeah, it's hard. She has a hard job because she had to simultaneously. Yeah, she's been vice president, but by and large, like, the American public still didn't know her very well, so she had to uh, do a lot in the period of a couple of months. She had to remake the Biden campaign into a Harris campaign. She had to be very intentional about introducing herself and taking the time to introduce herself to the American public, um, and while also contrasting who she is with who Donald Trump is. I think she's done a good job of doing both of those things, given the circumstances. I think it's really important for surrogates in particular to do the job of like I identifying that stark contrast and really going on the attack against Donald Trump. Just because she has a lot that she has to do in a very uh, brief amount of time before the election.
Why is the election so close? I mean, I watch it and I shake my head because,
Yeah.
she started out with some momentum. She built on that momentum. She had a fabulous convention. She had a fabulous debate. I don't think she's made any major blunders in the sense that, new candidates often make big mistakes. She hasn't made any big mistakes.
No.
And yet it's a tie race. I mean, he's leading in some of the swing states. It's scary as hell because I
Yeah.
jokingly say no one knows anything about what's going to happen. Why are we in this position with somebody who is a spout of misinformation and lies and criticism and name calling?
Well, I may be biased, but social media.
Well, I think it is social
Yeah.
media. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, that's it. I mean, we're in this position. There's data that show too. That despite the valiant efforts of our DemCast community and others who are doing this work on the pro democracy side, um, we're still getting outposted, in terms of volume and in terms of actual views of social media posts by the other side. There's various reasons for that. They had a huge head start. They sort of built this sort of digital army concept before our side really started to embrace it. They have a more robust alternative media machine that includes podcasters and talk radio, and just they have a more robust infrastructure, and when you have that infrastructure you can take snippets of all of those produced media and spread those as viral pieces of content online. um and I think yeah, we're we are in trouble.
That's a good word.
I still think that we're gonna pull this one out. Um, because I do think that the energy is on our side, but it's a really great question that you ask, and one that I hope people will think about after the election. Fingers crossed everything goes okay. Uh, because we really need to focus on building more digital infrastructure to combat these lies online, and to just like have more produced content, to because over 50% of Americans get their news and form their views from their social media feeds now, and including
Scary
increasing numbers of
number, isn't it?
youth. It's a scary number, and including increasing numbers of youth who now use TikTok not just for dance videos and to follow their favorite artists and influencers, but they're really starting to dig in and get their news on TikTok as well.
Does
And we are
TikTok have a
being
bias?
we we are being vastly outperformed on TikTok in terms of political content. The
Why?
right is, uh, like I said, just more digital infrastructure. The interesting thing about TikTok is the algorithm is different from some of the other social media platforms. You do not have to be an influencer with millions of followers to have a post go viral on that platform. Literally anybody, somebody who literally just created their account, if they put out a piece of content that the algorithm likes, the algorithm is going to show it to potentially millions of people.
How does that
So
work, the
so
algorithm? Can you just stop right there for a minute? Because everybody
mhm.
talks about algorithms and nobody explains how they work. I never have heard a cogent explanation of how these algorithms make their decision of who to spread and what to spread. How does the TikTok
Yeah.
algorithm work? Do you have a sense of it?
Specifically on TikTok, it changes. It's sort of constantly changing, and that's people who are creators on the platform. myself included. It can be frustrating at times because you can post something that you think probably would have gone viral, 2 months ago, but now it's sitting there with like 387 views. So it's a fickle algorithm. There are people who are sitting in TikTok headquarters somewhere, who are constantly tweaking it. Their goal is to keep people on the platform so that people keep scrolling, people keep seeing advertisements so they can bring in more revenue. That's their goal. So for instance, the algorithm will favor videos where people watch the video all the way through, like not just like watch the first 5 seconds and then scroll past. But people like if people interact with the video, if they hit that like button, if they repost it, those will factor into whether a video will move through the algorithm. But ultimately, the goal is to keep people scrolling and keep people on the platform. And so that whatever the algorithm decides is the thing, the batch of characteristics of a video that will meet that objective is what they'll sort of plug in to the algorithm. So you'll see, because part of the algorithm is having people watch the video the whole way through. You'll see creators do things like at the beginning of the video, like hint at something that's going to happen at the end of the video. Oh, you'll never believe what blah 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 said about this. But first, I'm going to show you this. But hey, but stay with me because you're not going to believe it. That's why you see people doing sort of rhetorical tricks like that in their videos on TikTok.
What about Elon Musk? I worry, that he has taken such a prominent role in this campaign, and obviously Twitter matters a great deal. Is his algorithm different? Does it reflect his role or his viewpoint or people who were trying to curry favor with the boss?
100%. Yes. Really, none of the platforms, and this is one of our issues, and why DemCast believes strongly in sort of the democratization of content creation and sort of like fighting with volume and high numbers of people sharing content, is because Elon Musk is obviously just a terrible human being. and clearly, we saw the pictures and the video of him jumping at the Trump rally, and like he has clearly consumed the Trump Kool-Aid, and he is definitely leveraging his platform. I think that's why he bought it, to support the sort of right-wing disinformation machine. And anybody who's on the platform knows that it's changed a lot since he took it over. It's darker, and there's way more bots and trolls, and the right wing has sort of retaken control of a platform that was really one of possibly the only platform that was like at least 50-50, if not like favored toward the pro-democracy side. But like Zuckerberg, Musk, the Chinese who own TikTok, like none of these people are friends of democracy. It's been proven over time.
How has it been proven? Because that's a controversial statement to say that. I mean, about Musk, it's not so controversial. I would expect it's controversial about Zuckerberg. I don't know what the Chinese are doing. It's a little scary, I think.
Yeah, it is scary. And that's why, there are a lot of politicians in Washington who want to at least, regulate TikTok, if not ban it unless the Chinese sell it. Zuckerberg, there was so much coverage of, the 2016 campaign in which, there was a lot of infiltration of Facebook, in particular, by Russians, who are putting up pages and pretending to be Americans. And there was a lot of like, hey, it's not our fault. coming from Facebook, right? But that's not true. Like they have total control over the platform, and have every ability to to pull whatever lever they want to help fight disinformation. This year, what they've been doing, that's been really frustrating for a lot of people on the left who post on Facebook specifically, is people, early summer, late spring, Project 2025 really started to go kind of viral, and people started to really talk about it online, and that's how Project 2025 came to be known, to most Americans. It wasn't from reporting; it was from social media.
That was an
Um,
affirmative effort, Nick, by Project
it was
2025.
it was no, it was people, I think especially on TikTok at first, who just started to create videos and to expose what the Heritage Foundation was trying to do with Project 2025, and sort of all the dark plans that might come to fruition if Trump were to win the presidency. But what later in the summer, a lot of accounts, including the DemCast account, had posts taken down, because the Project 2025 content was being fact checked by basically a right wing group, and Facebook had anointed this right wing paper as as a fact checker, as a legitimate fact checker of information. So that's where I'm saying, like, these platforms are not, the algorithms favor anger and hatred, and because the angrier people are, the longer they're going to stay on the platform, and
Right.
and
I used to do
banter and rant,
radio,
and
and that's how it worked. Rants. You
yeah,
wanted rants. You wanted emotion. You wanted
you
anger.
wanted rants. Yep.
And
And they want rants. Yep.
and the
Yep.
guy who ran the radio station said to me, "If only you were conservative and would do these rants, you'd be a national superstar." I said, "If only I were 6 feet tall, I'd be a basketball player."
Yeah,
That's like
yeah, right.
saying, "If
Yeah.
only you were something different." But they do favor that. But why aren't we emotional and angry? I mean, I'm pretty angry right now about what's going on in my country and about the prospect of an election that's going to be challenged, and a guy who won't even say he's going to accept democratically and peacefully the results of this election. I mean, can't we match their anger at this point?
I mean, there's a lot of anger out there, and there's a lot of, those are a lot of the posts that travel from our side. Like, that's why for years it's been, whole groups have sprung up that are anti-Trump groups, and even during the entire Biden presidency, when Trump, was kind of almost in hiding, there was still just so much Trump content out there, because he's such a sort of historically terrible figure. Um,
Well,
so
but he
I
commands
think there is that.
attention. He's charismatic.
He commands attention.
And he'll
Yep.
say anything. I mean, he says things. I worked in presidential campaigns in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, and a candidate wouldn't say any of the things that he says.
Oh yeah.
Reducing, calling her a retard. I mean, this is just
Yeah.
insane.
And he gets it. He keeps getting away with it. So why would he stop?
So why would he
the
stop?
we just have a harder job, because Democrats and people on the left, progressives, actually care about, like, governing, and believe that government can have a role in making people's lives better. Um, Republicans don't have to talk about policy ideas or legislative accomplishments or any of that, because they don't care about any of that stuff. All they have to do is make some of these people hate some of these people, so that they battle at each other, and then and just get everybody angry and scared all the time, and they can literally win elections like that. So, and they're able to command the airwaves, the current version of the airwaves, which is social media, because that content is just so vitriolic.
And what do you mean by a digital infrastructure? We talk about it, but I'm not sure I understand exactly what it is. I mean, it all seems sort of freeform, and it isn't. It's much more organized than that. But how?
Yeah, so I part of it is sort of that uh, progressive media infrastructure. The we have the right wing has just a lot more of that stuff. Like I was saying, where you can clip content. If Tucker Carlson says something, it'll it'll go viral online. And you can clip all that content and make it travel. So part of it is the progressive media infrastructure that we need to continue to build, and we have done much better job of that over the last 8 years with groups like Crooked Media and Courier and groups like that who have sprung up to help fill that gap. When I talk about digital infrastructure, I'm really talking about a digital field team. So when it's election season, you have canvassers, who are trained, who go out and spread word about candidates who are on the ballot. You have phone bankers, you have text bankers, you have people writing postcards, and we need to think of social media as a place where people need to be proactive and talk about the sort of pro-democracy messaging, 24/7, 365, not just in election season. We need to have trained people who are comfortable in digital spaces and empower them with information and get people all on the same page at the same time talking about the same thing, which the right is so good at, and deploy them and to sort of to fill the voids on social media and to inform the public about important things that are happening in the world and in our country. And that's what DemCast is trying to do. That's our goal, is to build that digital infrastructure to really help Americans embrace the idea that they can be a part of the solution over the long term. If social media is the problem, then we got to fix the problem on the platforms.
Right.
Another way that we could get some help with that is if we get a trifecta, it's time to regulate social media.
And
And
how
it's
is
time
it
for it's
regulated? I mean, because of I'm a civil libertarian. Obviously, I get
Yeah.
nervous when people start talking about regulating open space or regulating public space. But how do you do that? I mean, how do you
I mean,
regulate
I'm
it?
not I'm not a I'm not a
That's
policy expert. Just in terms of end goal, I think requiring social media platforms to have a legitimate uh, uh, approach to fighting disinformation that meets some type of criteria um, uh, would could go a long way. But every industry has some level of regulation to it, and it's to keep Americans safe. And social media is not helping make Americans safer right now. It's really it has a hand in potentially the dismantling of democracy. At this point, if Trump were to actually win this election this fall. So
and even if he loses, I mean, I don't want to see social media the next day in a close election be turned into a forum for distrusting the results of that election. Isn't that what's going to happen?
they're already laying the groundwork for it.
How are
We
they
we
doing
see it.
that?
Well, one way is polling. So Republicans, I know a lot of people are really concerned about the sort of trajectory of this election, but a lot of the polls that have not over half, about half of the polls that have come out over the last few weeks have been from Republican pollsters. They're flooding the zone with Republican polls that are going to lean toward Trump, and that's all to pave the way for an argument that he's inevitably going to win, so that when she wins, they can claim fraud.
Right.
So that's one thing that they're doing. Disinformation online,
Why
continuing
aren't
to.
we flooding it with Democratic polls?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
why aren't we fighting fire with fire? You're
I don't
laughing.
know. I don't know.
My singing to the choir.
Uh, yeah, you're singing to the choir. I think it's polling's expensive. I don't know, but our side has a ton of money too, so I don't
Side
really
has a
know.
ton of money. Are they spending it well? Have they focused enough on social media?
They've done the best job that I've seen in the so, I've been involved on social media since 2018, so 18, 20, 22, and now 24. This is definitely the best I've seen our side do. I was at a convening recently in New York where a lot of groups and influencers were pulled together to learn how to use um, AI tools to expedite uh, the pace of creation of content, so that we could post more, because we have this huge posting deficit online. So people are thinking about this. We're working collaboratively across the movement to try and do as good a job as we can this
How do you
cycle. But
use
we
AI? I'm sorry.
I
How
mean,
do
what?
you use AI? Do you use it to
How do you
make
use AI?
posts? To make
Yeah,
posts
so
like this war?
there are some really great tools out there. Obviously AI can be a scary thing,
Mhm.
in terms of creation of deep fake videos and other sort of like creation of graphic content that has you know Kamala Harris all contorted or eating animals, or just like there's all kinds of things that you can do with AI now that can expedite the pace of creation of uh, content that's not helpful. But you can also use it to expedite creation of content that is helpful. So yeah, there's new AI tools where, let's say there was a long speech that Kamala Harris gives. It's a 20-minute speech. You
Not
can
long by
input
Trump
that.
standards.
Not Trump, but not long by Trump standards, but long for a human being to have to go through, find the clips that are sort of most, potentially viral, um, cut those clips, make a vertical version, make a horizontal version, add the subtitles, like all that stuff. It takes time. It just takes time. So there are tools that help, that use AI to basically do that kind of nearly automatically. If you just upload the video, it'll sort of look for the snippets of the video that are most potentially viral, and it'll sort of splice it and dice it for you, and you can have a video in like 5 minutes. So there's tools like that. There's tools that sort of skim the internet, and you can just type a question in and say, "Hey, Kamala Harris just announced on The View that she's proposing a Medicare expansion that would provide home health coverage for seniors. Like, can you tell me what she's proposing, uh, how much it would cost, and how she's going to pay for it?" And it'll like skim all the news articles that have been produced about that new policy idea and give you like a summary. Which obviously you always need to like fact check and make sure that, because AI is not perfect, but there are tools that are definitely out there that can help us tell our story, spread content faster, and even improve the quality of our content in some cases.
Do you take all of Trump's speeches and slice and dice them? Because I've seen him at rallies, and I think it was a joke line at the convention or at the debate that Kamala Harris was saying to undecided voters, "You should go to a Trump rally, and that'll convince you not to vote for him." But I actually think seeing him at these rallies, the press doesn't really report how outlandish he is because it's just another day of lying about immigrants. But there's something about the way he
Yeah.
behaves at these rallies that's gotten very dark and very bleak and very scary. And I wonder if people see it.
Yeah, we do some of that for sure, and we people in our digital army uh, over at DemCast do a fair amount of that. I saw somebody post a video on social media of Trump. Uh, it was like a 7-minute video of Trump at a rally yesterday, where he somebody asked him about um, how he's going to help small businesses, and he goes on this just like absolute incoherent ramble about like gas cars and electric cars, and there's no electric anymore, and it just like it literally didn't make sense. So I actually used one of those tools that I was mentioning, an AI tool. I dropped that video in there, um, and popped the video out really really fast, and I was just checking my phone to see how it's doing. It's got 1.1 million views. So um, yes, we do we do try and spotlight, how just I mean spotlight the sort of mental degradation, the crazy, the
Fine.
rambles, the brain fog, all of that stuff. Like, because it's so not fair. Like that they were attacking Joe Biden for his age for 4 years, and Donald Trump is not only just almost as old as Joe, but like clearly like
Way worse.
losing completely losing it. And the fact that we haven't capitalized more on that is a bit of a missed opportunity, and something that we'll look to do down the home stretch here.
Yeah, why haven't we capitalized on that, Nick? I mean, why isn't that persuasive at all? It seems, I mean, it doesn't move. One of the frustrating things about watching this campaign from the outside is that nothing moves the ticker. I mean, we're stuck at the same
Yeah,
place we've always been. We've got close to 50% of the American public that seems to buy this guy's act. And it's
yeah.
not that they don't know who he is, they don't particularly care.
Yeah, I think it is because they do think that they know who he is, and he has done such a good job. Um, God, it's hard to say that. Uh, Cementing a perception of himself across the part of the electorate that likes him. That he is, yeah, maybe he's kind of old, and he rambles a little bit, but he's a strong man,
Right. Strong and tough.
and strong and tough, and that's what we need in these times. There's just that just persistent narrative out there that's just so hard to crack. But some of this, I mean, like that video that I shared yesterday, like if you can capture and spread like what it actually looks like when he talks, it's bad. So I think we should look to do that down the stretch here.
I would think social media could be a powerful tool to showcase somebody like Trump who is degenerating before our very eyes. And yet
Yep.
it's not on my feed. I don't see it every day. And I'm obviously a Democrat and, a liberal and whatever else you call us, an idiot, a
Yep.
podcaster. And I just don't see it every day. And I don't get the daily
Yeah.
communications of it the way I remember when I used to be at Fox, where I was as a House liberal for 16, 17 years. And Sean Hannity would get these packages every morning of stuff from
Uh-huh.
the RNC and from the
Right.
infrastructure on the other side. And I would get nothing, I would get a few pages
Right.
of talking points for the day, and that was about it. And he would literally be walking with this stack of materials from campaigns and influencers. And, he'd
Yep.
sit down to look at his stack, and I'd sit down to look at my 5 pages. And I don't know why we didn't catch up back then, but we haven't caught up yet.
Nope, we haven't. But I think we're making up ground, and I do have hope that, you know, um, fingers crossed we make it through this election cycle with democracy still intact, and Kamala Harris at the helm. I do think that we're getting smarter about this, and that the 26 and 28 cycles we could make up a lot of ground.
You think, I know I've taken a lot of your time, but how do you think this election really is going to go? You're out there every day fighting the street fight, as it were. Um, do you have confidence that things are going in our direction, or are you scared like me that you wake up in the morning every day and Trump hasn't collapsed? And it
Right.
makes me very nervous.
I like Simon Rosenberg often says, "I'd rather be us than them." I think it's close. It's too close, and it's close because we have the Electoral College, which is a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
Um,
it sure is.
she
But that
she's
I've
gonna
had
she's gonna win the
writing
popular vote
papers on the
by
Electoral College for 30 years. And, I finally put a stop to it because I said it's not going to change. It's like writing papers
yeah,
about the weather, you know? I mean,
yeah,
and the
right,
weather will change more than we can the Electoral College, it seems. She's going
yeah,
to win
yeah.
the
It's
popular
just she's going to win the popular vote by a handy margin. It's unfortunately it just comes down to 30,000, 40,000 votes here and there across the rust quote unquote Rust Belt states and the quote unquote Sun Belt states. Arizona,
vote.
and Nevada and Georgia and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan are are where this is going to live or die. Um,
You
I
target them online when you're running a digital campaign or you're running DemCast. Can you target those voters and those states by what you're doing, with what you're doing?
It's harder. It's definitely harder and takes more coordination. But we do. It is very possible, and we've seen it. By virtue of seeing, for instance, where people are clicking links. So if we're sharing posts about a congressional election in Pennsylvania, and there's a link to voter information about that election, like because when somebody clicks that link, we can see where they are, and so even on a flat platform, meaning a platform that's not like focused around geography, like Twitter, um, we can see that uh, people who are posting about an election who are not in that location are the message is still reaching the people in that location, and you can add things like hashtags, that are sort of locally specific hashtags, and tagging people who are locals to spread uh, to help spread that info, and then on platforms like Facebook, which are more sort of about friend groups, and centered around sort of actual like relationships, which tend to be more focused in geography. Going out and intentionally trying to we go out and intentionally try and recruit people from the swing states and from important congressional districts, so that they can sort of have micro influencer status, within those communities to either get out the vote for people who agree with them or try and persuade folks who are persuadable.
If somebody's listening and wants to join your digital army, what do they do? How did they become a member? How did they get the information so they know what to post and how to do it most effectively?
Yeah, so the best way to find us and get involved is to go to the DemCast site. It's demcast.com/amplify. Uh, and so it's DEMCAST, demcast.com/amplify. And we have a variety of ways that people can sort of track our messaging guidance, our social media toolkits that we create. We have a huge group on an app called Reach, and if you go to that website that I mentioned, you'll see all this information. But Reach is an app where you can join, and we have a vast library of content that you can just go into and just go to town. Videos, memes, graphics. We have it sorted by Project 2025 and Harris Walls and Trump Vance and everything even down to like economic inequality and unions. So no matter what you want to talk about, we've got some great content and sort of chat groups on there too. So that's sort of like peak DemCast. Like if you really want to dive in and get really involved, that's where I'd point you. But we also have a Substack that you can subscribe to called the Digital Drumbeat. That's our newsletter that goes out.
Today, what people should be reposting and talking about and all of that. Do you have a daily roundup or something like that?
Yeah, what we'll do is
Hourly.
mostly what. No, it's not hourly. I wish if we had more capacity, I would do that. But the drum beat really does. Yeah, it's we try and do daily, and it's if we're doing particularly if we're doing like a social media storm on a specific topic on a specific day, we'll share assets and messaging guidance on that. If a video comes out that's whether it's a Harris campaign ad or just something that somebody creates on TikTok that's like especially effective, or if there's message tested content coming from a group that's shows to be especially persuasive, we'll do a post on that. So that's another way that people can sort of track what we're up to.
That's wonderful. Well, Nick, what are you going to do in the last? What's your priority in the next? How many days do we have left? I stopped counting.
21, I think.
One. It's
Yeah,
getting very nervous. 21 days is all.
3 weeks. Yeah.
3 weeks. 3 weeks to change the world. What are you going to do for the next 3 weeks?
Just we'll be doing a lot more like GOTV messaging. Just sharing as early voting deadlines approach, like all those kinds, just making sure that people are going themselves, but also sharing with their friends, families, and followers, and urging them to go vote. So we'll be doing a lot of that. We'll be doing just a
That's
lot of contrast
I
mess.
call them. How do you reach low
What's that?
propensity leaners? I call them low propensity leaners. They're people who, as somebody put it in the paper the other day, their choice is the couch. And how do you get those people who are low propensity voters who may be leaning in your direction to actually go out and vote? And how much can social media do to get that?
Social media can definitely help. We don't pretend that social media is the answer to everything. Like we still have to do all the door knocking and phone banking and text banking and all that. So if you're somebody who has done that in the past, but you haven't done that yet this cycle, like go sign up for something because especially if you're in a swing state, because we need all the help we can get. But yeah, I think we will be sort of circling back, I think, to some of the Project 2025, the dark vision that the Heritage Foundation and the MAGA movement put to paper, as a blueprint for what a Trump presidency would look like, because it's dark and it's scary and it's not something that anybody wants to be a part of. That's why it went so viral. This sort of spring and early summer, and I think now is a good moment to circle back to that for folks who are like, oh, should I vote? A
Just
little
make
bit of scare the crap out of them. It couldn't hurt at this point. But then also just like a strong closing message about Kamala Harris. She's competent, she's smart, she's compassionate, and showing all the best of her, so that people feel comfortable going to the ballot box for her.
well, Nick, if you ask me, you're doing the Lord's work. I can only say that, if somebody who's out there, I just hope you succeed, because if this thing is close, it's going to get ugly. And then the
Yeah.
lawyers will take over, and that's terrible. I've been teaching law for almost 40 years, and it's terrible if the lawyers take over. That's no way to run a democracy, with frivolous lawsuits going down the tubes and somebody standing in the way of a peaceful succession would be just awful.
The
Just
best
awful.
thing for America is definitely winning handily,
Right.
so that there's less room for sort of griping and candidates going and asking secretaries of state for 11,000 votes and such things.
Right. Such things that we've seen. Nick Knudsen, you're doing the Lord's work. DemCast is the name of the organization. DemCast.com, amplify/amplify. is how you get involved. And 21 more days and we're there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to
That was a really great
That.
conversation.
Well, you're a great guest. With me, Susan Estrich, I want to take this moment to thank Nick Knudsen for joining me today and tell you that if you missed an episode or if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you'll get all the episodes in the future. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch on YouTube, leave a review or a rating so we reach more people, and please help us. Follow us on X at No Holding Back FM, and for my weekly column, visit our website, estrichgolden.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time on No Holding Back.